Tarpon!
All right, Watch Your Lip fans. A couple weeks ago, I posted a video of some underwater footage of the Silverside run. Guys, I had to make another one because the video footage that we got today on this Silverside run and the snook and tarpon feeding frenzy was awesome. Guys, I'm learning so much about Silversides. I wanted to thank Justice Martin for coming and just taking my GoPro and a mask and a snorkel and going underwater and getting a lot of this footage. But guys, check out some of this footage that Justice caught with a GoPro Hero 4. It's an older model in the Silverside run. Check it out, guys. Give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Got tons of fishing action following this, so let's get into some Silverside feeding frenzies. I grew up in Delray Beach, and on Delray Beach, guys, in all my life, in 25 years of beach fishing, I can't really remember there being this massive Silverside schools that hang out all summer long. Usually we fish pilchards. Sometimes the sardines come through, goggle eye, blue runners, crabs. We fish all that in Delray, but in Pompano Beach, guys, now that I've moved further south down the coast, it seems like right around the 4th of July, up through the entire month of August, these Silverside schools are just crowded up on the beach, and snook and tarpon are just going nuts. And it's been a learning experience because the Silversides, I don't have a net for Silversides. They make these really expensive nets with real fine mesh that you can catch Silversides with. We get them with our net. I think we use the little 1/4-inch net poles, and that's still too big because we still get a whole bunch of gill baits, but we're able to get by with just throwing that little 5-foot 1/4-inch net and getting our baits and we're fishing them. But we're also learning that Silversides are very difficult to hook and keep alive, and so even with a very small hook, they die very, very quickly once you put them on the hook. But typically, guys, they don't last long once you put them out. But guys, what we've done is we've caught a bunch of snook and a bunch of tarpon and a bunch of palometa and barracuda and gosh, what else? Blue runners, jacks, all kinds of stuff with a bait that's about a 1/2 inch long. These little tiny minnows that you would never think a huge tarpon would eat. Guys, they're getting slobbered on, and we're just having a really, really good time this summer. And I wanted to share a little bit of the information on what we've learned about fishing the Silverside run. Again, this is new to me. We're used to fishing blue runners, we're used to fishing pilchards. It's a whole different ball game, whole different mentality. Silversides are actually a nickname that are given to a fish species. Their real name is bay anchovy, Anchoa mitchellii. It's an anchovy, guys. It's something like you put on your pizza. Guys, they school up in what seem to be millions for sure, billions, I don't know. Guys, estimation on the numbers of fish that are in these schools, it's absolutely phenomenal. And they protect themselves. They only have one protection, guys, and it's numbers. Literally, be as close to as many of your friends as possible and hope that you don't get eaten, because it seems like everything in the ocean, from little tiny jacks about this big, 3 inches long, all the way up to 100-pound tarpon, are all feeding on these anchovies, on these Silversides. So guys, in the summertime, what it looks like is these schools, they get pressured. They get pressured by jacks, they get pressured by bonita, by tarpon, and they get pushed right up onto the shoreline. And literally, when there's waves, I mean, several of the days that we were fishing, it was calm and there were no waves, but when there's little waves, that they're so jammed up on the shoreline trying to escape the tarpon and the snook that when a wave comes up, the wave actually pushes them up onto the beach. And guys, the snook and tarpon actually methodically tag team and team up or hover around the outsides of these schools, and they push them right up onto the shoreline, and they use the beach as a natural barrier because they just jam all these baits up and there's nowhere for them to go. And then literally I've witnessed this, I don't know, a couple hundred times this year, where the tarpon, 5, 6, 7 tarpon, will all just sit out there, they'll wait, and at whatever the right time is, whatever the cue is, they all ambush the school at the same time, and they just go nuts. And then what happens is the tarpon come in, and they've got that incredible suction mouth, that like 5-gallon bucket mouth, and they come in and they go, and they open up their gills, they flare their gills, and they suck in, I don't know, a couple gallons of water maybe at a time, and whatever anchovies, whatever silversides are there, they get sucked in. But what also happens is that a lot of them get disoriented, they get knocked out, they kind of get bumped by these big fish when they come flying in, and then they're sitting there, they can't swim. And a lot of the smaller fish, like the blue runners, the jacks, the houndies, they come in and they pick off these little guys that get wounded in this in the feeding frenzy. So guys, it's an incredible thing to watch. I mean, it really is a super powerful display of these massive tarpon feeding on these little fish, and really, really cool. Fishing in the anchovy schools and the Silverside schools, it's a lot of fun because typically when you're beach fishing, you're using a big weight, you're trying to get it out as far as you can and cast it out over the sandbar where the fish would be. Not during the Silverside run, guys. You can fish light line, light tackle, and you don't need any weight. In fact, I am suggesting not to fish any weight at all. My suggestion to you, I could be wrong, this is my first year fishing with them, but we've had the best luck fishing maybe 20-pound test braid with a 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader and a number 2 offset circle hook. That's it. No weight. Just splice the mono leader, the fluorocarbon directly to your braid, little hook, and what you're doing is you're cast netting a little bait in a bucket full of bait, and you're just putting that little circle hook through the bait, and you throw it out, and the bait dies almost immediately as soon as the hook goes through it. I mean, you might have 30 seconds of kind of twitching around on the hook before the bait dies. But guys, when the silversides are getting hit, you don't have 30 seconds. They get hit almost immediately, typically by a blue runner, or what we learned is these palometa. It's in the pompano family. Typically they're eating sand fleas, but guys, they turn their attention to the silversides. Eric caught a bonefish on one. You know, it's everything in the ocean is taking advantage of the massive feeding opportunity that's taking place right here. So then you cast your little silverside. You need a light line, and it helps to fish with braid because it casts nicer than the monofilament does. And you just cast it on the outside of the silverside school, and guys, the bait kind of just floats there and it twitches a little bit like this, and that's ringing the dinner bell. And a lot of times the little blue runners and stuff will come and pick it up. The houndfish, they drive you crazy because you catch like 30 houndfish for every one snook or tarpon that you hook. But eventually, guys, this tarpon will come through, they'll blow up inside the school, all the silversides become disoriented, then they come back around and they suck up all the little guys that are floating around, and that is how you hook your snook and tarpon. So I suggest fishing, like I said, light spinning tackle, light line, light drag. You know, you're fishing, you're only throwing it out 10 feet, 15 feet. So if your drag is set too tight, a tarpon hits you, and he hits and he jumps, he's gonna break your line immediately. So make sure your drag is set fairly loose so that you know, it's a ride, man. You get in, hooked in, you're going for a ride. So the silversides are jammed up on the beach line. They're trying to use the shallows for protection to get away from the snook and the tarpon. They're They're using sargassum seaweed to hide themselves in. We saw this, that they literally will jam themselves up inside of the sargassum seaweed. They're doing everything they can to try and hide from the tarpon and snook. And what we found is on this beach, there is a hotel, a resort, that uses a portion of the beach to launch their wave runners. And what they've done is they've put a bunch of rocks. I mean, it's actually really annoying because you can't walk down the water, but they've put hundreds and hundreds of little pieces of coral rock in the water there so that it discourages swimmers from swimming there. But guys, the anchovies seem to use this little portion of the beach as protection. It's shallow water, it's a foot or two deep. The anchovies are using this little area to try and jam themselves up on the beach, hide in the rocks, hide in the weeds, whatever they can do to avoid the barrage of predators that are right outside. And guys, I can tell you right now, there is no hiding because the tarpon, the snook, they come and get them. Tarpon and snook, guys, they're feeding literally 2 or 3 feet from the shoreline. It's like in 1 foot of water, the snook will come right up to the shoreline and blow up right there in the middle of the school. It's so impressive. It's so exhilarating. I can't even explain it to you how much fun fishing the Silverside school is. If you ever get the chance to do it, please do. It's amazing. So I've personally never been much of an artificial bait fisherman. I know a lot of guys, they love artificial. I've always learned on live bait, catching live bait. So we've always come with a cast net with a sabiki rod, and you know, that's how we fish. This year we got away with doing some artificial too, but you know, when you're fishing in the Silverside run, guys, you know, you don't want to use a big plug. You don't want to use a big Rapala or, you know, spool tech or anything like that, swim baits. You want to use a bait that is maybe 2, maybe 3 inches tops, because when the tarpon are feeding on the Silversides, they get locked in, guys. They don't eat anything else. They don't typically eat anything bigger than 3 or 4 inches. So if you're going to fish artificial lures, find a small swim bait, small white or silver kind of swim bait that looks like an anchovy, and you just want to throw it in the Silverside school right on the outsides and twitch it like it's injured. And guys are hooking up. I saw guys with fly rods out there. They're hooking up on snook and tarpon on fly rods. Super exciting time. If you're into artificial, this is a great way to catch some snook and tarpon close to shore with artificial baits, even on a fly rod. So cool. The feeding methods of the predatory fish are a little different. Guys, the snook, they're a little bit different than the tarpon. The tarpon, they come in like groups of 4 and 5, and they will sit on the outside of the school of Silversides and kind of corral them against the shoreline. And then all at once, they'll go inside, and you'll see them kind of turn sideways and flip their little tail, and then they explode with their opening their mouth. And you know, it's just a very violent thing with the tarpon. The snook, they're a little bit more shy. They tend to stay outside of the school a little bit more, and then they'll float inside, and they'll actually come a lot closer to the shoreline. But when we're out in the water, it seems like the snook are a little bit more fearful of the camera, so they stay a little further away. The tarpon, when you're in the water, the tarpon look at you like, what are you doing in my turf? This is my place. So get out of here, man. I'm trying to eat. Snook, a little bit different. They stay a little bit further away, at least during this Silverside feeding frenzy. The palometa, again, the palometa, we don't have any video footage of them underwater, but man, they were all over the place a couple times when we came, and they were just eating the Silversides. As soon as the Silverside would hit the water, you cast and you have a palometa on, and we had actually a palometa feast, which is a pretty cool video posting soon. But guys, it's a great feeding frenzy. It's a great opportunity. All the bigger fish attract bigger fish as well. So if you want to hook a blacktip shark, you catch one of these little blue runners or something like that are feeding on these Silversides, you hook him up and you throw him out. We're hooking barracuda, we're hooking blacktip sharks, and it's a very, very exciting fishing opportunity right on the beach, right in urban South Florida. Guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I had a blast this summer learning how to fish the Silverside run of Southeast Florida, right down Pompano Beach, Fort Lauderdale Beach. They're all over the place. So guys, if you liked the video, if you learned something, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We've got tons of great content coming your way, tons of great how-to videos lined up for you to teach you how to fish on the beach in South Florida. Guys, God bless, take care, watch your lip.
Yeah.